Hello once again. I've just bought this motorised chassis off eBay for $14.99, which was a pretty good buy. And it's a chassis for a B12, a Hornby B12. This is the one that's made in China, and it's a lot more up to date than the one that's currently in my B12, my old Hornby R852, which, if you've watched the videos on that, you'll see I put a Type 7 motor in, and this has the Type 7 motor. So I was quite pleased getting this off eBay for $14.99. You know, the motor and an immaculate chassis. So my R852 is going to get a shiny new chassis and motor. So if you're wondering why I'm swapping these over, the wheels on this chassis are pretty much shot, to be honest. They're very pitted. The tyres are actually loose on a couple of the wheels. There's a bit of wobble. One of the corn rods keeps coming off. So it's not in the best condition, but you know, I was quite happy to live with it. And I wouldn't have gone out of my way to get a chassis for it, you know, because I want to keep the locomotive as complete as possible from the original. But when I saw this going on eBay, I thought, well, I'll stick a $14.99 bid on. If I get it, fine. If not, doesn't matter. But really, it was the motor and motor mount I was after. So when I won it, I thought, well, I'll see what sort of condition it's in, and you know, now that I've had a look at it, it's absolutely perfect. So this will go into the R852. And all that's left of the original locomotive is the body shell and the tender, but you know, whatever, doesn't matter. It's going to look a lot better and it's going to run a lot better. But this old chassis, that's what we're doing. We're taking the motor out, and this is pretty much going to get dumped. I'm going to have to get the gear out of there. And what I think I'm going to try and do is, yeah, you're way ahead of me, aren't you? Come on, off you come. Is replace the XL4 motor in this old Ivatt Class locomotive. This XL4 motor is the one that was originally in my Class 4P, and it's a noisy motor. I managed to get it not too bad, with a lot of oil and a lot of persuasion. It wasn't running too bad, but it started to get very noisy again. But I'm going to try and fit this Type 7 motor into this. So in order to do this, I have to take the motor out, obviously, but I'm also going to have to replace the gear, the drive gear, which means, you know, disengaging all the valve gear and the corn rod assembly, and taking these two wheels out and the drive gear. So it's quite a big job to do. So this will be a bit of fun, and we need to take the drive gear out of this old chassis. That's what we're after there, that white gear. That's to replace that gear there. This particular locomotive has, oh, for the life of me, I forget the name of this, but there's this plastic mount here that holds, you know, these pieces there in place, and this part stands up quite proud from the chassis. This, I think, means that this motor mount won't quite fit. So what I think I'm going to have to do is grind some of this plastic down to get this to fit. So this is going to be a bit of fun. The first thing you should do when you're going to, you know, disassemble all these linkages and get the wheels off and everything is take photographs of how it all fits together, because it's, you know, it's not difficult to do and it's not difficult to reassemble. It can be a bit fiddly, and this Ivatt Class one is a bit fiddly, but you know, it's just a question of knowing how it fits together. So take some photographs or have access to photographs. So I'm going to take some photographs of this just now, even though I have disassembled this a couple of times in the past. Okay, so photographs taken, we can just start taking this to bits. Now, I really wish I could remember what this is called, but this is the part I'm talking about that I may have to file down a bit. If you've never done this before with a locomotive, I would, you know, strongly recommend using the service sheet, but I've dismantled this locomotive a couple of times, so I kind of know how it all goes together. With all that front assembly off, this all just gets a bit dangly, and where's the other one? There we go, these wee bits come off, and then just undo these screws with a precision screwdriver. And it all just comes to bits. like that. Let's see, so long as you have a photograph of how it all goes together, it's no big deal. But if you don't like fiddly things, don't do this, for goodness sake. Okay, so that's all that disassembled. So now to get the drive gear out, I'm going to have to pull these wheels. So the way I take the wheels off is put a flat blade screwdriver underneath one side and another flat blade screwdriver under the other side, and then just turn the screwdrivers one way and then the other, and the wheel comes off. Repeat the process on the other side, a couple of screwdrivers, and just turn them. And probably what will happen, and this is the side where the axle is, you know, metal to metal in the wheel. What's probably happening, as you can see maybe there, is that it's not pulling the wheel off, it's pulling the wheel and the axle out through the drive gear, which is what you want. That's exactly what you want to happen. I dare say there's probably an easier way to do this, but this is the way I do it. I think you'll probably see there's a tyre come off the wheel. See, this is the kind of thing that happens, but that should now pull off like so. And there we have the drive gear. So put that tyre back on. That'll be okay with a wee tap, but that's what we wanted rid of. Okay, so the old B12 chassis, we want to do the same thing. We want to get the wheels off and get that drive gear out. So same again, this is a nice simple chrome rod assembly. Get that off. So same thing again. Yes. There goes the tyre, and there goes the wheel, and this has actually left the plastic bush, but that should just pop off like that. And again there's another tyre come off, and just pull that out. And that's what we're after. That's the Type 7 motor drive gear. So this chassis really is just going into the parts bin. It's had its day. Yes, it was running, but it was never the best. Right, so to fit the drive gear into the Ivatt Class chassis, just pop the drive gear down and then just feed the axle through so it goes through the drive gear, and then just push it through as much as you can by hand initially, and then you're probably going to want to give it a tap to get it through. There we go. Sometimes you need a hammer. Now you don't just bash on the wheel, you need to think about your quartering at this point. So temporarily fit your connecting rod. And because you've got two wheels already in position, the quartering it's easy. It just self-quarters essentially. But it's when you fit the wheel on the other side that you need to watch what you're doing. So again, get that into position like so. Just push that down by hand initially, and you're almost there at this point. And I find, again, a little tap. Usually does the trick. And you want to make sure that your wheels are perfectly spaced, so you just sight down. You can measure them if you want, but that all looks fine. Rotate them, make sure there's no excessive wobble. That looks okay, but the drive gear is a little bit skew with, so I'm just going to take the screwdriver and get it down the side of the drive gear and just give that a turn, and it will try and centre it just a little bit. Make sure it's not got too much of a buckle in it. It's not too bad. With that sort of in place, let's see how this Type 7 motor fits now. Does it actually fit? So it fits in like that, fine. That's just perfect. But this thing, I wish I could remember the name of this. Is it the mounting bracket or something like that? Can't remember. Right, what happens, let's get this out. And what happens when I reintroduce this? So if that goes in there like that, I would absolutely love it if it actually fitted, but I don't think it's going to. No, just not quite. So I think what we need to do is get my trusty fret file, and we will file a bit of this down. So I think, as well as filing this piece of plastic down, I'm actually going to try and file this down. I wonder if it's better to take the actually take the motor out. I think that's an idea. I think that's what we'll do. We'll get this into my little vise. Okay, so what I've done is I've cut a bit of a groove out of this bracket, this plastic bracket. I wish I could remember what it was called. And I've also filed away a little bit underneath the motor mount, and hopefully that should allow this to just slot in like so. So that's fine, that'll now fit. The other thing I've done is I've drilled down in the motor mount here a little bit, just so the screw goes down a little bit deeper, because these mounts are designed for much longer screws than you get with the X04 motor. So I don't have another screw, so to use the X04 motor screw, I've just countersunk the hole a bit on the motor mount. So this should all now go back together, and hopefully we'll have a nice, quiet, smooth running Ivatt class locomotive. So let's put this back together. I'm going to fit the motor first. So put this, this is the motion bracket. I was right in thinking it's the motion bracket. We put this in first. Just get that in there. And then we can put this motor in. Get this back together. Right, just got to keep this live wire out the way. And this should just clip in like so. Normally with the X04 motor you would connect that to the rear, and there's the capacitor there linking this brush wire and the live wire, so we don't need any of this for this type of motor. So I'm going to snip away that, just leaving this, and we'll connect that together. We'll fix this little terminal onto the end of this wire to fix to the mounting screw. So let's get wire stripping. Oh, where are my wire strippers? So I'm just going to twist these wires together. These helping hand things are absolutely invaluable for soldering. Tin that a bit. You don't need to tin the wires when you're doing this, because essentially that's what you're kind of doing, is just tinning the twisted wires together. So I can put my little screw through this terminal and beat that round the back and down into the hole. On this particular locomotive, it's best to fix the motor in place before you put all the couplings and conrods and everything in position, because the motion bracket here is kind of held in place by the motor, and you need that to be held in place. Okay, so that's my motor in place, and that should work if I stick a battery on the front drive wheel. There we go. So if I put the positive on the positive side, the wheel should go in the right direction. There we go. Excellent. Right, so going to put the conrod, the valve gear, the couplings. I'm not even sure what all these things are called. You know, I'm not that big a locomotive buff that I know what all the different parts are called. But anyway, right. So just make sure you've got the right one, because there's one for each side. So that's the one for this side. So that goes on like so. Right, so that's that in place. So next we fit this tiny wee washer. Put that on there. And then we fit that on there. And then this bit, the little hole for this is not round. As you can see there, it's kind of rectangular, so that fits onto the little rectangular, I don't even know what you call that, but it goes on there. So if I can get this screw in, it'll hold everything in place. Come on. Like that. And screw it down tight, just keep it loose, and that keeps everything in place. So that has to go to the front. This then has to go up and plugs into the motion bracket. Oh jeez. And put that across. And again, put the screw down just to keep it all together. Okay, I'm going to have to spin these wheels just a little bit, because it is easier if the cam is facing as far, away. So let's just see if we can, like that, turn the wheel, that in, that in, and then that's it. So let's just turn that until it's flush. That's it. And then screw that down. Yeah. So that is that side done. Now we've got to do the same on the other side. And it's even more difficult when you've got one side done, because you've got less wriggle room. But yeah, let's give it a go. And there we are. So hopefully I've put a battery on this now, it should all spin. There we go. So, time to give it a little oil. Just tiny little spots. And there we go. So hopefully this will be a nice, quiet, smooth running Ivatt class. So let's go and see how they run on the layout. Okay, so let's try the Ivatt class first. Power on. And nice and smoothly away. So my old Ivatt Class is running really nicely now with its new Type 7 motor. Okay, let's try the B12. So there we go, that was fun. Certainly replacing the motor on the Ivatt Class was quite an operation. But really pleased that it's worked and it's running, really quietly and smoothly now. For an old Ivatt Class, it's if this was a brand new locomotive, it would run a lot better because it would have a better quality chassis and stuff. But compared to how that used to run with its X04 motor, that is, it's running fantastically. And the B12 with its new chassis, running great. Right, okay, catch you later, folks.